Hey, what's up everybody? I've got a nasty rust spot on my 2006 Volkswagen Passat, and I'm going to use a do-it-yourself tutorial from popular YouTuber ChrisFix to try to fix it. Stay tuned for my results. If you're here, you probably already know about ChrisFix's channel, but just for some quick background info, he does a ton of do-it-yourself car repair videos and has almost 6.5 million subscribers. Before anybody accuses me of trying to steal any clout from him, this video is partially a thank you to him, and I think my video has some value because it will show the results of what you can expect if you don't have any experience with body filler or any kind of body work. ChrisFix is great, but in his rust repair video, I think he downplays his skill level a little bit. This is my first time even attempting a repair like this. So shout out to ChrisFix, as his channel has probably saved do-it-yourselfers like me hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars to this point. This was my 2006 Passat. This picture was taken in July of 2018 after I had done a wash and wax job and was proud of how nice it looked. The interior was in even better shape than the exterior, and the car only had 123,000 miles on it. It's amazing how some easy maintenance can keep a car looking good for its age. Things like this headlight restoration made a big difference. I had also upgraded the factory stereo to a much better than expected Android unit that gave it a huge technology upgrade. So I kept up on maintenance, and it had the cam follower repair done at around 78,000 miles, so I had a bunch of new parts on the engine. I had to make 2 major repairs on the vehicle in the 10 years I owned it, but Volkswagen actually covered the cost of both. To this point, I had only owned 2 cars in my life, each of them about 10 years, so I obviously like to keep them as nice as possible. So after neglecting this rust spot for about 6 months, I finally decided to try to fix it myself. I started by sanding and getting all the loose pieces of metal off, and here's what it looked like after sanding and spraying some of the rust converter ChrisFix shows in his video. There's some plastic backing underneath the wheel well, so I didn't really have to worry about the backside too much. Now I lost some of my footage, so I'm going to go back to ChrisFix's video for this part. I did use the steel mesh to rebuild the pieces that I had broken off, and I didn't have any trouble with that. I was even able to slide it behind the panel just like he shows. Just cut and shape just like he did with something that will cut cleanly and you should be fine. Now, moving on to the body filler. This was the hardest part of the fix for me. I'd never worked with Bondo, and he mentions it will start to harden in about 5 minutes. But for me, it was more like 2 or 3 minutes. His mixing tips seemed to work great, but I may have had too much hardener in my mix. I'll let you guys chime in the comments with any mixing tips. It was also a very hot and humid day, so that may have had something to do with it. Now that I've got a little hindsight, my advice would be to mix as close to your work area as possible and work to apply it quickly. I had an easy time applying it while it was still soft, but as soon as it would start to harden, I would start to get a little frustrated. This led to me using more body filler than I really needed, which led to more sanding. I'd recommend to apply the body filler sparingly and plan on mixing several batches for each type of filler. I did 2 batches for the fiberglass filler and 2 batches of the gold filler. I only did 1 application of the glazing and spot putty, but should have done at least another batch of that. The biggest problem I had was transitioning to the factory finish, which I'll point out here in a few minutes. I also used a palm sander that I had instead of sanding by hand. I'm sure it saved me some time, but the vibrations may not have done me any favors when it came to the smoothness of my final finish. I know that's not the best type of sander to use for this application. I'll let all you guys chime in on that in the comments. Overall, sanding wasn't too difficult, and ChrisFix's advice about sanding in the same plane of your panel was great. I feel like I was able to shape my body filler to match my quarter panel pretty well. His tip about letting the filler dry in your scraper was great too. It not only kept the scraper clean, but it also helped me judge when the filler on the panel was dry and ready to sand. So for me, mixing and applying the Bondo was the hardest part of the job. If I had it to do over again, I would have broken that part out on 2 separate days, so I just wouldn't be as frustrated and I would have been able to get a smoother finish. Moving on to painting, I was able to build myself a paint hood with some extra lumber I had laying around. Then I covered it with a drop cloth and put some painter's plastic on the car. You can see some pretty prominent ridges throughout my repair area. That's where my frustrations came into play when I was trying to apply the Bondo. I think I could have gotten a pretty smooth surface with a little more of the gold filler and another layer of the glazing and spot putty. I knew it wasn't exactly smooth before I painted, but I wrongly thought I could mask it with a little paint, even though I knew better. Overall, painting wasn't too bad. Both my paint and clear coat ended up looking good enough for me. Here's a quick look at my finished job. Sorry there's a little rain on it. You can see the ridges in my work up close, but overall I was happy with it and hope to have stopped the rust. I was going to do another round of polishing and get some wax on it to try to make it blend in a little better, but then this happened. My car actually got hit and totaled while it was parked at a restaurant. I was inside eating lunch. Thankfully, nobody was injured in the accident, and while I was sad that my car was hit and totaled, things could have been much worse. I've got the repair area highlighted. You can see it passes an eye test from about 10 feet out. So while my repair wasn't perfect, it was successful in making the car look a lot better. And it wasn't all bad. I moved on to a Mark 7 GTI and don't have to deal with any problems that come with older cars anymore. My Passat was a great car, but I've loved every minute with the GTI. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. Also, if you haven't checked out ChrisFix's channel, definitely go check him out. He doesn't need my help promoting his channel, but I still want to give him a shout out for a great video. I had to watch his video about 20 times, but it finally gave me the confidence I needed to try the repair myself. My total cost was around $170, and it took me around 5 hours total over 2 afternoons. If you found this video helpful, feel free to hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.